All right, we're here. Welcome to the grind. I'm your host Adam Johnson, two-ways, 10days.com, also the courtside reporter for your Santa Cruz Warriors. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Going to talk all things NBA G League. It's been a fun couple weeks. I've had some time off as well. Trying to get back into the grind, so to speak. Had an exciting game last night as the Santa Cruz Warriors defeated the Iowa Wolves 109-103 off the heroics of Kendrick Nunn with 32 points off the bench and Darius Morris with the triple-double, 25 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists. They are 4-0, best start in team history, and that was also a game without the likes of Damian Lee and Marcus Derrickson, their two-way players. And conversely, the Iowa Wolves are now 0-4, haven't won a game yet. I believe last night was the first game their two-way players joined them on the road trip they're on, so that obviously is going to be a difference maker for them. But I think regarding Iowa, and my observations last night is that they need a better interior presence as far as defense and just a big man. They're a little bit on the small side, just my immediate observations. I can't tell you how many times that guys like Darius Morris and Kendrick Nunn last night, whenever they turned the corner from the perimeter and penetrated, it was an easy layup for them. It helped defense struggle to come over, and there was hardly any bit of an interior presence, so to speak. That's just immediate observations for the Iowa Wolves. I do know that if they need a quick pickup, Adam Woodbury's out there and he's available. I believe in the player pool. He was waived by Westchester Knicks. So, I mean, that could be a quick pickup. I'm not saying it's going to solve the problems, but it might give them an immediate fix to relieve some of those issues. But I think that's what they need immediately if they want to kind of address those things. But I'm not an expert in the least. Just my quick thoughts on that game and my observations regarding the Wolves, which I think their roster is better than what their record speaks for, especially with a two-way guy like C.J. Williams, one of the best. You saw him the way he could perform last year with the Clippers and hitting clutch shots, so to speak. So with that being said, let's talk G League basketball. First topic, of course, is let's talk about the Ball family, shall we? Shams Charania reporting that LiAngelo Ball is considering or is planning to sign a G League contract. This was reported, I believe, on Monday or Tuesday of this past week. As far as what I've been told, though, he still has not signed a contract. Now, why does a player announce he's intending to sign a contract before he actually does? Well, a couple reasons. But first, I want to kind of get out of the way. I kind of mentioned this on Twitter this past week. If you follow us on Twitter at either 2ways, 10 days, or my personal Twitter at AdamJ_NBAGL, whenever a player signs into the league, the team's already notified. There's no secrets. There's no backdoor deals being made, or there's not everyone isn't notified. There's a whole internal database that notifies whenever new players enter, because first they have to go through waivers, and then if they're not claimed off waivers, then they go into the player pool. So there's a whole process, and I'm kind of puzzled as to, and this is no disrespect to Shams. Obviously, he's doing his job. He's reporting. No problem with him. When he's given information as he's told to report on it, that's fine by me. There's no qualms there. But it's the method and the process which I think is kind of confusing me. So we had the G League draft not just a few weeks ago, and LiAngelo Ball could have been eligible for that had he chosen to sign a contract just about a month ago or so. I think was the deadline at this point, roughly, give or take. He could have been eligible for that. Chose not to, and obviously after the draft has passed, after training camp is done, he's now announcing his intentions. Now, why does someone do that? Well, a couple reasons. One, most importantly, is they want to control the message, right? It's one thing if he's picked up out of the player pool. It's another, however, if he is, excuse me for 1 second, if he is picked up, or if he goes undrafted, rather than picked up by the player pool. So there's a bit of a idea of controlling the narrative, right? So it makes him it improves the image, so to speak. It's one thing to go unselected. It's another thing to a team that actively want you. So why do they announce this? Why do they have this intention like that? Well, I'm of the belief that they're putting that out there, kind of like what other players have done, like Glenn Davis last year. He sort of had this announcement too of intentions to sign a G League contract. Did in fact, was never picked up, obviously. But they kind of, for in this case, because he hasn't signed a contract, LiAngelo Ball being, I think it's of the idea that they want to get a reassurance from a team that they will pick him up before he even signs. That way he doesn't just sign a deal and he sits there and doesn't get selected. And it's all about image. It's all about branding. And again, this is not a knock on the Ball family per se. I may not agree with LeVar Ball's methods when it comes to questioning head coaches like Luke Walton, but I can't deny his business savvy and his entrepreneurship, to say the least, and building a brand like that. So I think those are two mutually separate ideas, but I can respect him as a businessman all the same. I can't deny a person that's making money. You know what I mean? But the methods behind some of the things he said, I think are a bit questionable. And obviously, he's going to protect his kids, he's going to protect his brand, and that sort of thing. So I think they're doing this messaging thing where LiAngelo Ball, they're hoping a team will reach out and say, yeah, we want to sign you, or we'll take you in. Because, no teams will know that he has interest unless he states otherwise. And I'm sure they have communications with some G League teams, maybe not all. So that's why they're broadcasting this way. So that's why you have maneuvers like that where guys will sort of announce or put feelers out there that they want to do these things, but then maybe not follow through on it. So like I said, we're almost a week into him or having Shams report that, but no contract being signed. And I mean, he could sign anytime. He could have signed it during the summer. He could have signed it before the draft, but there's a reason behind all this. And I think it's important to sort of broadcast that and explain intentions on why these things happen the way they do. With that being said, I'm wishing the best of luck. No ill will towards him or the Ball family, like I said. But I think it's a smart move, I guess, in the least. You're kind of, like I said, protecting your image. But I kind of wish that they had kind of jumped in sooner rather than later, so to speak, and been in a part of the process, the entire process, so to speak, rather than sort of picking and choosing their windows of when they want to sign in. Does he get picked up? I don't know, honestly. For what I've been told, he's more of a 10th, 11th, 12th man on a rotation, end of bench, certainly. And that's just, I think, the nature of the way G League rosters are built. So, you have your two-way guys, you have your affiliates, the players that are waived in NBA training camp. You have your returning players, you have your tryout players, and then you have your draft players, which you can kind of lump that in with LiAngelo, because that's where he's at this point. He'd be coming post-draft, he'd be coming out of the player pool. I'm not saying it's the bottom rung, it's just the way that the rosters are built that makes that happen. So that's where we're at with LiAngelo Ball. This just in, the Iowa Wolves have recalled Keita Bates-Diop the Minnesota Timberwolves have recalled Keita Bates-Diop from the Iowa Wolves. He played last night in Santa Cruz, had a decent game. Pull that box score up right now, in fact. Keita Bates-Diop, 20 points, 10 rebounds, nice double-double for him, 8 of 18. Kind of interesting they're calling him up now, though, because Iowa's still on a road trip. They have a game tomorrow in LA, I believe, and they have another game after that as well. So it's kind of odd they would send him out here for one game and then have him come back. I don't know. I mean, I'm not an NBA expert. I don't pretend to know everything. It just seemed kind of odd when players get assigned for a single game. But I mean, these players can move freely between both teams, so who knows? I would like to have seen him maybe play a little bit more in the G League. 8 of 18 from the field. 3 of 8 from three-point range. Not bad. Free throws, 1 of 2. Decent game from him overall. Obviously, he was tied for leading scorer with Darius Johnson-Odom. 5 of 12 from the field, 20 points. In the loss last night to the Santa Cruz Warriors. So we've got that going. Certainly interesting news. Like I said, I kind of thought he would have been on assignment for longer. but given the needs with the roster, I guess with the pending Jimmy Butler trade, perhaps they had this assignment already in the works before that deal went through. Now they're going to come bring him back because they maybe need the extra bodies while that deal is pending, which makes sense, I guess, when you think about it logistically, because they can't, they won't have Jimmy, they won't have Justin Patton. Well, Patton's injured already, but the more bodies, the better. And they won't have their two-way guys. I think their two-way guys are going to stay with the team at this point. So, scrolling down here. They had William Lee, Marquise Moore, Xavier Silas, Evan Smotrich, and Prince Williams did not suit up last night. The box score did say that Xavier Silas played 12 minutes. Obviously, that's not the case. I think the minutes were messed up there. I did not say, listen, I know Xavier Silas when I see him. He was not there whatsoever. Or he did not play, excuse me. Moving on. Let's talk who's hot, who's not in the NBA G League. Take a look at the standings right now. And as you can see, in Eastern Conference, the Greensboro Swarm 3-0. A lot of Nets are 3-0 as well. Top, Greensboro obviously benefiting from Shinano Onuaku, and it's also Devontae Graham really showing out as an assignment player for the Swarm via the Charlotte Hornets. A lot of the Nets, man, I got to tell you. I'd be lying if I said they were on my radar. But obviously they're showing out with a 3-0 game right now. 3-0 record so far. Mitch Creek, a couple clutch plays from him. Knocked off the hot Raptors the other night. The 97-90 victory. Need to say more about Chris Boucher. Let's talk Long Island for a second. Mitch Creek out of Australia doing things as well. You got, I think the difference for them this year is their two-way players are much better than last year. Theo Pinson balling out, as well as Alan Williams. We'll look at Theo Pinson right now. Averaging 23 points a game, 53% from the field, 45% from three. I mean, what's not to like about that? 6 assists, 5.7 assists, 6.3 rebounds, 5.7 assists. Yeah, he's definitely balling out for him. So, I mean, that's increased production from last year's guys. So that certainly helps. Let's take a look at Alan Williams. I think he's along the same route, too. Just a major contributor. I think two-way players, 26.5 points in 2 games. 17.5 rebounds. That's ridiculous, right? So, I mean, that you can see clearly right here that there's increased production of the two-way guys. And I think there's two lines of thought, right, when it comes to two-way guys. So either you can pick a hot prospect like these guys that can get buckets and contribute immediately, or you sort of save one spot for a development guy. I think you saw it last year with Quinn Cook and Chris Boucher in Santa Cruz. Chris Boucher was injured for a good portion of the season, came back, increased his minutes as the season went on. But, essentially, Santa Cruz is playing with one two-way guy, and maybe not even one two-way guy because Quinn Cook got called up for half the season because of injuries to the Warriors, namely Steph Curry. So, Santa Cruz was a bit hindered last year, so I think the value comes in your two-way guys. They're really anchor for the team. They are stability as well. In a league where guys are constantly coming and going, maybe get called up, maybe get waived, maybe go overseas. Two-way guys are sort of that foundation point of stability for your team, provided that they stick around. They are obviously under NBA contract. So I think that's critical to get solid two-way players in there for you that are going to contribute, that can get a bucket or two for you. If your two-way guys struggle, I think that's going to be a challenge because those are roster spots that they take roster spots on the G League side. So. And they're on those NBA deals. They are non-guaranteed, though, so players can come and go at the mercy of the NBA teams. I'm not sure if that's going to change in the future. And I kind of mentioned this, and I've talked about this a bit on the website, with players and their days of service. I mentioned this on the broadcast this past week for Santa Cruz. Travel days no longer count. I think that's a mistake. I think travel days should count, even as complicated logistically that can be for teams. When you're a player that gets paid by the day, you need those travel days to count, right? So what happens is these two-way contracts will be stretched out even further, which doesn't benefit the player. The player kind of wants to bet on themselves and wants ultimately to move on from the two-way deal, hopefully, and convert to a multi-year NBA deal, kind of like what Quinn Cook did this past year. We'll probably see it from Alonzo Trier as well in New York. Hopefully. I mean, I don't think he's spent a day in Westchester yet, so we'll see. He's got 45 days. We'll certainly see. Definitely. But I think the days should count. I think those should definitely count for those two-way guys. Looking on down here, Capital City Go-Go. Congratulations to them. Picked up their first victory over the Windy City Bulls this past week. They've had a lot of close games. I don't know if their record speaks for it. I think they could even be 3-0. So it's still early in the year to see what teams have. You kind of look here, certainly, at Capital City. One thing that they benefited from that I think isn't mentioned enough is that they joined the league by themselves, right? So the past 2 years we've had a combined 7 teams join the league. 4 teams last year, 3 teams the prior year. And, that's huge growth. But at the same time, that's an expansion draft where you're battling against either 4 teams or 3 teams to make selections. This year, they had the pick of the litter. They could pick whoever they wanted, maybe made arrangements with agents. Hey, if we take your guy, will you, is any interest in playing in Capital City? So that's kind of the arrangement, I believe, with Chase and Randall, who's been signed to, he's, I think, the first call-up of the year, to Washington. So, nice little, that was a Sports Center top 10, by the way. Devin Robinson with the oop. Right there. So I think that's important, too, to note for them. Yeah, Robinson Swords. Can we watch this one? Let's watch this one.
All attacking, strip from Chioza behind. He attacks. He's got Robinson the line.
Woo! That's why you're Sports Center top 10, my friend. Let's watch it one more time. Oh, look at that. Oh, no. That's highlights. Let's watch this one more time.
All attacking, strip from Chioza behind. He attacks. He's got Robinson the line.
And Robinson falls off the scoreboard on that one.
Shout out Megan McPeak on the call there. Former play-by-play player or broadcaster for the Raptors 905. Now with the Capital City. Lob Central, my friends. Beautiful. Get out of here for a second here. There we go. And the Go-Go claimed Alexander Kobets, off waivers this past week. But it's definitely been a fun week and a half or so for the Go-Go as they get going. Like I said, I think they have losses of, I think it was 3 points and then another game of 6 points or so to start off the season. So, they've been in close games. So, you can say they're contending, certainly. It's still very early. We're just a couple weeks into the season. Actually, about a week into the season, literally. Round about week 2 here as we get going. Wisconsin Herd 1-2. Brutal loss last night to the Sioux Falls Skyforce, and we can talk Skyforce a bit here. 5-0. I don't know if that is the best start in team history. It's got to be pretty close. I know that team that Dan Craig coached a few years back that went, I think it was 40-10 during the regular season and won the championship with Jarnell Stokes. Ranks up there. 5-0's got to be close to their best start ever. And a 5-game plan. There you go. 123-105. Ouch. Sioux Falls Skyforce getting. Why are they 5-0? Let's take a look. Let's see, they got outscored there in the fourth quarter, but needless to say, they're up big. Nevada Smith, the offensive juggernaut that he is, likes to run. And we're seeing a team put up 123 on a Wisconsin Herd. That's very impressive, to say the least. Take a look at this roster, though. Keontae Maton, 21 points and 10 rebounds. I mean, that was a solid two-way pickup. You knew he was good coming into the league. He had the pedigree. He played in Portsmouth, I believe, at the PIT. It shouldn't be a surprise how good he is, no matter where you hear it from. Putney, 18 points, 12 rebounds, 2 of 7 from 3. I think he's shooting just under 20% from 3. That's uncharacteristic of him. If he can start shooting that and knocking that shot down, look out, just another perimeter threat for this team. Then you got DeAndre Liggins and Briante Weber. Right here, this combo on defense is just going to smother teams. I think that's what they do best. And look at the output here. Another double-double. 20 points, 10 rebounds here for Briante. 16 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds for DeAndre Liggins. Boo Paulo, another member of that championship run with the Skyforce a few years back with Dan Craig. Rodney Purvis, who was with the Lakeland Magic last year. He was one of their two-way guys, I think. 28 points. So you have this great balance of offensive players and some defensive stalwarts as well. So there's a great balance here, I would say. Definitely. I think that's the key to their success, too. And they just picked up Austin Chapman from the player pool. They waived Gary Talton. 2 points in 12 minutes. He's just getting going with his team, getting familiar with his teammates as well. But yeah, Skyforce 5-0. Look out for them. And let's see what their next game is. We have a couple games on the docket today. Rio Grande Valley at Capital City today at noon on Facebook. Delaware and Long Island at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, Facebook. And the NBA TV game at noon, Texas and Oklahoma City. The Blue, I believe, are 4-0 as well. Off to a great start under Mark Daignault. I think this is Daignault's 5th year as head coach, which is, I want to say unprecedented, but I feel like there's another coach who maybe had 5 years at the helm. I want to say Will Voigt with the Bakersfield Jam. Not 100% sure on that, but want to believe Will Voigt had a few years under his belt in Bakersfield. Also, you got Memphis hosting the Austin Spurs, Stockton hosting the Agua Caliente Clippers. And the Kings announced last night that Harry Giles III would be on assignment for Stockton. That's going to be a fun one to watch if you want to pick up a matinee game and watch some G League basketball. That's a good one. Raptors at Windy City, also to close out the day. If I had to pick a game, though, to watch, I would say either this RGV Capital City game, or if you want a little bit of Harry Giles, Agua Caliente Stockton, too. Ty Ellis returning to the helm for Stockton, former head coach of the Northern Arizona Suns. He's a great interview. Love speaking to him when he rolled through Santa Cruz this past week. Very humble, very appreciative of the opportunities that's been given to him. And he says he's constantly learning. He appreciates each and every step on the journey. And you can tell just by his tone, the fact he wants to give us time and speak to the media and things like that. It's little things like that you really appreciate when guys want to reach out, want to talk, and want to share information about their journey as well. So shout out to Ty Ellis. Shout out to the Stockton Kings. Best of luck the rest of the way, certainly. We can go back to these standings here. Let's jump in here real quick. Check out the new stats page. Got a bit of a makeover, so to speak. Kind of surprised. Checking stats this week. Checked one night after a game and checked again the morning of, the morning after, and looked totally different. Kind of surprised there's no press release or announcement that this was happening. Kind of wanted to pump it up and share it, that this does have a bit of a new aesthetic, which is kind of cool. It's a little bit simpler. You don't have faces of players on the loading screen here on the home page, which is, I don't know, I like to see the faces there, but I guess it makes it more simpler to load in, so to speak, when you have less graphics. I do like this. There's a couple different tabs now, nightly leaders. So from November 7th, I guess, which is odd. It's a few days ago. Wonder if that's how often that should be updated, or if and when it is. Let's go back here. Definitely like this, though. I'm not sure how accurate this is for total points, rebounds, assists, all-time triple-double leaders. Wow. Curtis Stinson with 12. Daniel Hamilton. He might get that this year if he's on assignment with the Hawks. He had quite a few this past 2 years with the Oklahoma City Blue. So we'll see. I'm surprised. Just 12? That's the record all-time? Wow. Highest score game, Chasson Randall with 37. Daryl Macon, 35. I feel like Devontae Graham had a 37-point game, so I'm not sure how accurate this stuff is. Delaware Bluecoats, 30 assists. They're 0-3, though. Most steals in a game. Breonte Weber had 8, I think, to open up the season. Putney, again, my guy. 5 blocks in a game. Most three-pointers in a game, 16. I'm not sure when these stats are updated or how often they are. But I feel like these need to change, so to speak. I don't think this is 100% accurate. I do like the idea behind it, though. I do like seeing these things you can track easily. Gives you just stats to jump to or refer to. Hey, who has this? Hey, is this a season high? Hey, is this the high for the year? Is this a record? What, just easier to watch. Nightly leaders, I do like this. Like I said, that kind of worries me because today is the 11th. So I'm not sure how often this is updated in order to qualify as nightly leader. That should be addressed, hopefully, at some point. It's a new page, so maybe they're just kind of working out the kinks. You can only hope so. Season leaders, definitely like to see that. Chris Boucher, we mentioned him before, 33 points. He's had a breakout season so far. Again, super early, but you got to appreciate what he's doing, definitely. Alan Williams averaging 21 rebounds per game. Chris Chiozza, Capital City, 12 assists per game. And fantasy points is a nice new tab here. We can talk fantasy if you want to. That'll be interesting too. So I really like this. My hope is that it's updated more frequently because I don't think this is accurate, but it is a good start. Definitely is a good start to say the least. We can go to scores here. This is nice. I like this. Definitely like this aesthetic. You got standings too on the stats page. I like that. You got the schedule too. This is kind of nice because I don't think the stats page had all this available. I think they did, but maybe it wasn't easily accessible. So I do like you can sort of grab this info. Season leaders and stats too. This is nice. Definitely like this. Let's check the advanced one. Does it go? Oh, it just tops down here. Offensive rating, 135.3. Jeez. It's pretty big. Let's check out the team stats. All teams. Whoops. Teams home. Let's take a look here at pace. All right. I've kind of been interested in tracking the pace given that the NBA has an increased pace this year. Scoring is at an all-time high. I think it's for the 60s or 70s is the last time we saw a scoring output like this, which is fun to watch, certainly. But you have Long Island Nets with a pace of 112.17, which is pretty crazy. You look down here. You still got some teams in the 90s. Santa Cruz Warriors, 99.88. Interesting because they must have scored at an efficient rate then because, yeah, this is 58.1. Scoring very, very efficiently. True shooting percentage. Boston Spurs, Salt Lake City Stars, Oklahoma City Blue, Grand Rapids Drive, Erie Bayhawks. They're up there. That's assist to turnover ratio. That's a key metric you want to watch. Defensive ratings getting it done. Oklahoma City Blue. Here, newsflash. Oklahoma City Blue, 4-0 defensive rating. Greensboro Swarm, 94.9. They're 3-0. The Nets, they're 3-0, 95.9. See a trend here? You see a trend here? These teams that have the top defensive output do well. I know we love to embrace the offensive side of the game, but defense is just as important. And you can see here, these top teams are teams you want to keep a lookout. I mentioned it before on this show. Last year, Austin Spurs, one of the top defensive teams in the league, won the championship. The year before that, Raptors 905, top defensive team. They won the championship. The year before that, Sioux Falls Skyforce, top defensive team. They won the G League championship. The year before that, Santa Cruz Warriors. They were the top defensive team. They won the championship. So, I mean, it is a bit cliche to say offense wins games, defense wins championships, but the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding when you see the numbers and they back them up. Needless to say, so you've got the proof here. Again, we're talking 3, 4, maybe 5 games in. Sioux Falls already played 5 games. But you can see it here. You know, you're not going to contend if you're not a top defensive team. At least in my eyes. Especially the last few years. I think as the talent has increased, maybe getting away with it years before. But I think the talent level has increased to the point where you have to play defense. Maybe a few years back you could have gotten away with it. Lakeland Magic, they're 0-3. Maine Red Claws 1-3. Iowa Wolves 0-4. So you can see these defensive ratings. I mean, again, small sample size, but you can see. You know, watch this as trends, how these teams fare, and you'll see. So this is a good indicator of who's going to be successful this year. So they're not just winning; it's how they're winning, which is important to note too. But again, pace. You have 22 of the 27 teams at the pace of 100 or better. 101 or better. That's crazy. That is crazy, to say the least. Let's talk G League Fantasy right now. For some reason, I cannot add players, but that's okay. So I believe you get 10 stars, and we do have room in the 2 ways 10 days team, or league, per se. If you want to join us, feel free to follow the links in the Twitter page for 2 ways 10 days. The way it works, you get 10 stars, and you can add up to 5 players. They kind of give you an idea of the average fantasy points per game, so you kind of gauge here. These star ratings, though, I'm kind of not sure. Everyone's got 3 stars. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. It can't be, obviously. So, because, I mean, you can see here, G League player is 1 star, 2A players 2 stars, NBA players 3 stars. So an assignment player gets 3 stars, obviously. The hope is that they have a better output. So the goal here is to kind of find G League and 2A players that you think are going to overperform, that are going to be successful on the stats. And you can kind of see the breakdown here. We scroll down. It gives you the fantasy point breakdown. So it's points, 1 point for point. Rebounds and assists are going to be key. Steals are 3 points. So you want a guy who's going to get steals and blocks too. Maybe don't have, if someone has 5 blocks in a game, that's the equivalent to 15 points, scored. So that's key. -1 per turnover. That's critical too. Double the stats if they're recruited in the NBA. That's wild. That's crazy. So you get a player that's get a call up, their stats still translate over if they're in the NBA. So don't fret if your guy gets called up. Now, whether he plays the same amount of minutes, not sure of that, if the output's going to be the same. But you'd like to think so. Still pretty early. Haven't had too many call-ups. I think, like I said, just chasing Randall for the Washington Wizards. And boy, that's a fun mess out there, isn't it? Wow. But again, feel free to join us. G League NBA Fantasy. And I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode. If you have any other questions, you can reach us out on Twitter at AdamJ_NBAGL or at 2 ways 10 days. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a fun episode today, talking G League and all things around the league. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.